welcome to the strategic case study for May-August 2020. So students, before we come into the case study, I just want to give you some introduction on what are the changes in the new syllabus. So students, from this sitting May onwards, you will be able to sit for 2 sittings using the same case study. Example, the current case study is Runnabout. So even if you are doing the exams in the August, still you will be going through the same case study. And if you are not appearing in the month of May, still in August you can do it, the Runabout case study. And also if you have appeared in the month of May, if you could not clear, still you can do it in August, the Runabout case study. So before we come into the case study analysis, the second thing I wanted to say is how the exams has changed. Now students, if you look at the past syllabus, they had skills. The examples of the skills they had was technical skill, which is the theory knowledge of a student in his answer. Then we had the business skill, which is the application knowledge to that particular industry. And then we had the third one, which is the people skill, how you are going to manage the stakeholders in that case study exam question. And leadership skill is the actions what you are going to give for a problem or a proposal what they have. So students, in the old syllabus, you need to get 25%, 25%, 25% and 25% of these skills totaling up to 100%. So if the pass marks is 80 out of 150, suppose if you had failed in one skill, you will be failing the exam. But in the new syllabus, they do not have that rigid exam calculation. So if you still manage to score 150, somehow you will be able to pass. So they will not grade you based on the skills. So students, I just wanted to show you one of the results of a student who did the exams recently. So students, this was the new syllabus exam done in the month of February. So still they do have the skills. I think you can see a small pie chart which is 25, 25, 25, 25. That means technical is 25, business is 25, people is 25 and leadership is 25. But students, if you had the experience of doing the exams in the old syllabus, you can clearly understand instead of this co-activity, they would have mentioned the skill. They would have mentioned technical skill, provision or not provision. But the only change is they have increased the co-activities now. So students, coming back to the explanation, now co-activities, you can identify that in the CIMA blueprint, which is available in the CIMA website. The CIMA blueprint, which is available in the CIMA website. But students, even though there is co-activities, I suggest you, it will be better if you can go through the full syllabus. Example students, I just designed this for your understanding. So students, if you look at this paper of strategic level, F3, there is no big changes. There is no changes in F3. The F3 is look as still the same. The F3 is still the same. There is no huge differences. It is still the same. But students, if you look at the P3 area, the new additions are cyber security threat. And students, I generally refer that it will be great if you can go through this cyber security, the cyber security 3 chapters, which is there in the P3. Suppose if you are a student from the old syllabus. And students, if you look at the E3, again, it looks like the same. The only difference is chapter 12 and chapter 13, where they have digital strategy and digital strategy governance and element of digital strategy. So students, you should be very much careful with that area. So I feel that is fine here. So students, now what we are going to do is we are going to do the analysis of the case study. So students, just keep in mind these exams will be a 3-hour examination, and this is the first time you will be doing the exams from your home, that is the remote examination. So students, I prefer that if you can go through the Pearson website and follow the instruction, and they do have a video explaining how the exams are operated. And also students, they have a platform also where you can practice some questions from a specimen paper, in other words a model examination paper. So students, coming here, this is the May-August 2020. So this they have specified it for 2020. And students, Here you find Runabout case study, and here you can clearly identify this is completely digital. For example, students, you see a hoverboard here. So students, I generally feel the millennials, generally I'll use the term here, the millennials and the generation X, the millennials and the generation X may be familiar with this Runabout technology. So students, we are going to analyze this. So students, before we come into the introduction, I just want to say here, the introduction here is generally a business skill. The micro mobility industry is the business skill of the knowledge. And students, please do not do too much practical research, because you should apply the answer specifically to the case study industry. And Runabout, the company, that's a business skill. Extracts from annual report, they are given mission and vision and values. So again, that is a business skill. Board of directors, I can say people skill. Organizational skill, people leadership. Organization's principal risk, so I can say that is a technical plus a business and also plus people together. Internal auditing, technical, business and people. Financial statement, purely technical. Extracts from competitors financial statement, it is technical. And Runabout share price history, technical. News story, I'll just put a triple star for this area, students. Generally the examiner will develop the unseen based on these two. So please be careful with the data what is given there, because you can refer this data in the examination. So students, please keep this in mind. This is the business current issue that is taking place in the market. So students, when coming into the introduction, so it is very much clear. You are the senior manager. So please keep in mind, students, this is strategic case study. So you will be the senior manager in the finance function of Runabout, the parent company. So please be careful. This is a parent company. So as a senior manager, you will be handling lot of subsidiaries. You will be handling lot of subsidiaries under your roof. You directly report to the board. So please be careful, students. Your accountability is very high, because you directly report to the board and advise on special projects and strategic matters. Special project and strategic matters. So students, there can be two scenarios in the exam. One is the business proposals which they may be testing, and the other one is the business issues which they may be testing. So these are the two sections. Runabout is a quoted company. So students, it's a public limited company. So please be careful about corporate governance requirement, very much important, students, and also the dividend policies which may be very much important. Operates a pay-as-you-go hoverboard vehicle for the use of the public in the major cities. So students, I think you may be aware, even in Bangalore, India, you may be seeing there are some company called Cyclu, where you can borrow the cycle from a dock and you can park it in another dock. I think this is a common practice in the Europe region, and I think in the Indian region, it is slowly developing in the metro stations. You may be finding in the metro station, they may definitely have this type of services. You just keep in mind. Vehicles for use for the public. So Zealand is a large prosperous country. So I'll underline the term large prosperous country with a population of more than 1 billion. I don't know why they have mentioned 1 billion. I generally feel there may be an issue here, but 1 billion people is a huge population, friends. A huge population, almost like China and India size. Huge population. Zealand's major cities have grown rapidly, and many are struggling with difficulties cause of traffic congestion and resulting pollution. So students, there is huge traffic and congestion. So that is the reason this micro mobility is very important. For short distance, they can use a cycle, hoverboard, or a scooter which they can travel for short distance, specifically 1 kilometer like that, and they can park it in the lot. Runabout is based in Zealand, where the currency is G-Loader. So students, please be careful. They may have international operations also in the unseen. So please refer some risk on the currency risk so that you can understand. Example I can say is the hedging, which you would have studied in the P3 area, hedging. Okay, so now it's changed into F3 in the new syllabus. Requires companies to prepare their financial statements in accordance with IFRS. So students, I think you may be aware about IFRS 9, where they have about the disclosure, and IFRS 7. So please remember these standards also. You can just make some quotations when you're writing the answer. Zealand has an active and well-regulated stock exchange. Companies that are quoted on the exchange are required to adhere to Gielen's Code of Corporate Governance, which set out detailed regulations relating to governance arrangement for quoted companies. So students, there can be potential governance issues also that can come here. Potential governance issue, because it's a listed company, so governance issues can come. So students, I think you are aware there are two types of governance practices. One is the principle based government practice, and the other one is the rule based government practice. So rule is generally followed in United States of America. Principle based is usually followed in the UK. So rule based means you have set of rules. Sabans and Oxley Act you would have remembered, and principle based is generally like in UK. In other words, they clearly say as comply or explain. Comply or explain, and the market will be deciding whether we need to invest or not to invest. But in UK, in USA, it's usually an offense if you are not following the rules and regulation. So students, when coming into the micro mobility industry, this is a very important industry, students, that you need to keep in mind. So micro mobility is relatively a recent innovation, Now example of a recent innovation I can just say is social media. Now social media is a recent innovation. It was not there in the past, okay? So micro mobility is a recent innovation dating in the early 20s, that is early 2000. It involves of provision of one-way rental services that enable users to complete the last mile of the journey quickly and efficient. Micro-mobility users rent a single bicycle, scooter, hoverboard from one location and return it to another location that conveniently close to their final destination. So I will just write down here bicycle, please take it down also students, bicycle, scooter, and the other one they are mentioning is hoverboard, bicycle, scooter, and hoverboard. So these, if you see, the speed limit is very less. If you generally see, the speed is very less compared to a motorbike. So there is an issue, students, that you need to keep in mind. This is only for small distance. This is only for small distance and one-way travel also. Typically, users are commuters who need fast and efficient way to get from, say, a city center railway to their office. So just keep in mind, students. So micro mobility is generally used for relatively short journeys, as I told you. So augmented traditional of public transport rather than replacing it. Commuters must be encouraged to travel in city center by train or a bus, knowingly that micro mobility solutions are available enables to get them to work on time. Example, students, they can save time from traffic because they can quickly go, even though it is slow, they can quickly go without any congestion, without walking long distance or relying on bus or taxi services that are likely to be slow moving because of rush hour traffic, So students, the success of this model is their network, because the networks needs to be successful, because sometimes there may be a situation that there may be a certain routes which are covered by this service and some routes may not be covered. So there can be a chances where you can do a network analysis on how these bicycles are operating and whether it is convenient for the user. So students, when coming to the next area, they are specifically explaining about the industry here. So bicycle sharing permits users who are registered with a provider to rent bicycles on a short-term basis. So who are registered. So students, in other words, unregistered people cannot log into this area. So students, one thing is control issue is very much good. The internal control is good. The main reason is only the registered users can take it. So I can just mention internal control looks strong. The provider creates a network of bicycle docking. I was clearly stating the network of bicycle docking station or docks across suitable locations such as city center. That's what I'm telling. It should be in between the city center where majority of the people are populated. Users can release a bicycle from a dock by identifying themselves, usually by swiping a debit card or a credit card. They can use the bicycle for as long as they wish, but are charged a higher fee from releasing the bicycle unit. It is returned to one of the provider's dock. So students, a higher fee is also charged from one dock to another dock, which may not be the dock from which the bicycle was taken. Providers locate docks in the places which encourage one-way journey. For example, city center bus and railway station make convenient pickup points for the morning commuter. Docks close to major office and are convenient dropping off points. Users may then use or wish to hire bicycle for the first part and return to the journey. Taking a bicycle from dock close to their place of employment and dropping it off the station which they will be carrying the bus or train home. So students, I think this is very much simple, like the cyclo model that is taking place in Bangalore, Mysore, and also these metropolitan cities like Hyderabad. So bicycle sharing is relatively cheap because no fuel cost is there. So relatively cheap. And one more thing, healthy also. It may give you some healthy benefit also. In convenient way to cover the so-called last mile of the journey of the city center location. Cycling generally faster than walking and can also be faster than local bus service when rush hour traffic is taken into account. Bicycle hire charges for sharing schemes are generally inexpensive. In other words, it is less cost effective. Cost effective. Cost effective, I can generally say. Cost effective. While peak demand for bicycle occurs during the morning and evening rush hours, there is also a constant demand throughout the day and the late in the evening. So that is the peak hours. And students, this is a very important point. Students often use bicycle sharing scheme to travel between accommodation to their college. So I will just write down one target audience is students because you need to keep in mind they are young people, so they may definitely use this. And tourists find themselves useful to explore cities and for transportation between attractions such as museums. Many cities have large number of flat dwellers who live on a few miles to the city center who find it convenient to be able to use the bicycle sharing scheme to get to work from the short journey outside the work. So students, I can also mention tourist also, just keep in mind. Bicycle sharing scheme came into being in the early 2000. So just keep in mind it started in the 2000. It was also mentioned. They have grew since the development of many cities in the world. There have been some controversy about the use and they have also been subject to competition from other types of transportation. So I can generally say is you may be aware about Uber pool, which is generally you can pool a lot of customers together and you can charge a less amount also. So that is also one way of doing. And also students, instead of hoverboard, I can just say skateboard. I think you may be aware about skateboard. So they can have skateboard also, which is also a little better. And also I think you may be knowing about roller skate, which in other words the roller boots. Okay, even that also can be in the docks to improve this roller skate and the skateboard, because if you generally see students, so they may like the skateboard also, the roller skates also. So just keep in mind students. It is generally illegal to ride bicycles on pavements or in the pedestrian areas. Most countries' law requires cyclists to ride on designated bicycle lanes and on the road. So students, they can sometimes cause some inconvenience to the normal commuters also. And students, they are telling bicycle lanes are not available. Not surprisingly, increasing the numbers of cyclists on roads increase the number of injuries involving to the cyclist. So students, there is a risk element of accident. And students, this you need to put in a risk map. So I can generally say this risk accidents because it's a cyclist. So I think they have transferred. In other words, they have used the term risk transfer. In other words, they have transferred the risk to the cyclist because they are telling it's up to you now whether you get accident or not. We do not take any responsibility in your accident. So strict legislations has become introduced to reduce the risk associated with riding bicycles owned by sharing scheme. Operators must ensure that bicycles are roadworthy. Most operators require users to return a bicycle to its dock immediately if they believe it is defective and to inform the operators of the bicycle status using an app, in which case the bicycle will not be released to another user. So just keep that in mind students. So the app is one of the things. So I told you cyber risk you need to revise students. The students who are from the old syllabus, cyber risk is a compulsory area that you need to go through, 100% compulsory. In which case the bicycle will not be released. Okay. So there can be chances this can be, in other words, attacked, in other words, hacked. The apps can be hacked also, high chances are there. and unknown people also can take advantages of this. Operators generally employs mechanics to attend the simple repair such as flat tire while the bicycle is still on its dock. For more serious repair, the bicycles are transported to operators depot by van. So students, this is the process they generally have, the mechanic. But the only problem they do have is someone should notify the mechanic something has happened. So then only they will take the reaction. So they have not developed any technology to identify the conditions of the bicycles what they are giving in this last mile service what they have mentioned. In many countries, including Zealand, cyclists are required to wear crash helmet. So helmet wearing is compulsory. Bicycle sharing scheme have no specific responsibility for ensuring cyclists comply with this rule. But it does mean that this scheme users must either purchase and carry helmets if they wish to hire a bicycle. They must risk being stopped by the police and fined failing to wear helmet. So students, there is an issue that the bicycle wearer should be educated. In other words, he should be knowledgeable, because especially tourist. Now, when a tourist is coming to a country, he may not know the local rules in that country. So, if you have not instructed the tourist properly, there can be chances that they will be demotivated of your services, and due to good instruction, even your competitor can get your customers to them. So, this is a very important thing. Bicycle sharing scheme continue to be popular in many countries, and number of trips made by users of that schemes are increasing steadily. So students, this indirectly say there can be international expansion that can take place for your organization. So students, just keep in mind, so you need to be aware about the international culture, everything that can affect. There are, however, some competing modes of transport of this market. So students, here they have given the explanation of the modes of transport: electric bicycle, electric scooter, and hoverboard. But students, since here the youngsters are doing, I can also say skateboard. Skateboard can come into a picture, student. Skateboard can come, and I also was telling roller skate. Roller skate also can come. It can be like adventure also, if you generally see. Because for adults it will not be working, but for these people who are school children, they can use the skateboard and the roller skate. And also, if the tourists like mostly the adventure, they can also find the skateboard and roller skating, provided that they know how to handle the pressure and the speed of these things. So electric bicycles have battery power motors that augmented users pedaling and also requires less effort. That means this is electric bicycle. A motor is there, like kinetic energy. I can generally use the term called kinetic energy. So what generally happens is when you are pedaling, some of the energy gets stored and later you can use less energy. Many commuters prefer to use electric bicycle because of this. The bicycle batteries are automatically recharged while they are in the docking station. So just keep in mind, automatically recharge. So students, the next issue is carbon emission. So students, you need to be very much careful about the carbon emission. In the electric, it may be less, but still students, there may be a carbon footprint. So just keep in mind, students, these things you should be very much careful when you are analyzing this. Electric scooters are powered by batteries. They do not require any effort from their users. They are recharged while docked. They have proved controversial because they are often ridden on pavements rather than on the roads and have been involved in accidents involving pedestrians. So hoverboards are generally ridden on pavements on city context, and the issue is payment. So can there be a small, like people who are walking in the pavement, will they find these people difficult, because they may be going little faster than walking, and the other person must move, or if they are not moving, there can be a small issue for the person who is walking. Sometimes it may cause some inconvenience. They can be recharged while docked and used in similar manner like the electric scooter. Hoverboards are slower than the electric scooter. So one more thing, students, little risky also, because your balancing is very much crucial. So students, now we are coming into our company information, that is the hoverboard sharing. So students, if you look at here, the hoverboard sharing, hoverboards do not actually hover. They are two-wheeled vehicles, so just keep in mind two-wheel. So students, there can be disruptive technology coming in the exams where four-wheel board, which will be more safer than the two-wheel board, because now let's assume two-wheel board you can fall, but they can introduce four-wheel board to just retain the balance. Vehicles that are driven by electric motors powered by rechargeable batteries. The user stands on the platform and fits between the two wheels. The hoverboard is controlled by the operator leaning. So I'll just write it here, the leaning. So whether do they have a training is a question mark before they write these things. In desired direction of travel. A slight lean forwards make the machine roll ahead, and the leaning left and rights make the machine turn in the direction. Leaning backwards will make the hoverboard slow and reverse, and if the operator continues to lean in the direction after stopping. Hoverboards, which are sometimes referred as self-balancing scooter. Self-balancing scooter. So students, there can be situation like age limit. People who are around 45 years old plus, they must not use hoverboard, because high chances if they fall down, they may get injured, they may get back injury. So there needs to be good policies that needs to be developed by the organization. And now students, if you look at here, I think they have clearly mentioned the mechanism of what it makes. It has an electric motor, internally generated computer, a battery, a platform, and the gyroscope. So students, just remember these things, very important. So students, if you look at here, each wheel is powered by its own electric motor. The wheel is powered. So maintaining is very important. And what about the rainy season, students? If it is rainy, is that water resistant? There can be chances, there can be electric short when the water gets into that. So just keep in mind. If the user wishes to turn left, then right, the wheel spins and faster, making the boat turn left. This is just a basic explanation on how it works out. And also students, the motors also prevent the board from tilting more than few degrees, even without standing still. The computer, the electric motors are controlled by onboard computers that are programmed to manage both stability and the movement. Sensors in the platform provide the computer with inputs that keeps the platform stable enough to stand on and detect the user's control and control speed direction. Just keep in mind. And students, if you see the next one, platform, the platform is strong enough to carry the weight of the user. It carries the hoverboard, either the component also completes the pressure switches to control the measure. So this is very crucial. A battery, the hoverboard generally uses a 36-volt battery. So I'll just write here 36-volt battery. Keep in mind, there can be updated version of hoverboard coming also. So just keep in mind, sufficient power to ensure satisfactory performance. The hoverboard range is determined by the capacity of the batteries. So the gyroscope built into the platform enable the computer to measure the angle of the platform. The computer sends instruction and wheels using feedback from gyroscope and the tilting. So students, the only thing I am worried is, do they have any water resistant here? Because students, there can be high chances on a rainy day, it can be slipping, students. It's a rainy day, it can be slipping. But if you see the scooter, bicycle, they have good brake control. But if you see here, there can be a little bit of skidding chances that can take place when the environment is uncertain. So just keep that in mind, students. So hoverboard come from different sizes depending on whether they are being sold as an adult transportation or a child show. Adult hoverboard can reach speed approximately 10 miles per hour or 16 kilometers per hour. Although riding at full speed will quickly run down the battery. A fully charged hoverboard is driven at equivalent brisk walking pace, which can travel over 15 miles before running out of power. So students, the speed is also a very important thing that you need to consider. Hoverboard traced the route back of launch self-balancing scooter in early 2000. They captured the public attention because they look inherently unstable, yet they could be written apparent else because combination of indigenous engineering and electronics. So students, when we are looking here, they are telling how the hoverboards are initially designed. So early hoverboards was too expensive, that we know that it was very much expensive when they started for consumers to buy, but quickly became established as a mean of fast and efficient transport for staff who needed mobile within areas populated by pedestrians. For example, security staffs in theme parks, shopping malls, airports can respond alerts quickly without having to rely on conventional vehicle, which would be too large and could pose unacceptable risk to the public. These hoverboard also enable riders to see over pedestrian because the platform is few inches above the ground level. The hoverboard have other uses such as giving first aiders a paramedics to get casualty quickly and giving staff supervisors the ability to attend incidents and interact staffs spread across the areas in responsible. So initially it was a B2B segment only. So it was used by the staffs in these areas like airport, everything. So students, what happened? The machines themselves require no training to operate. In other words, no basic training. Still, they may have to have a trial and error. The rider simply must lean in the desired direction of the travel and can regulate speed by leaning more to go and less slow down. These machines are not, however, without their risk, especially if they are operated irresponsibly. They can generally travel faster than a brisk walking speed that was repeated, so the rider may have to navigate around the pedestrian. The user could fall off the strike obstacle carelessly and collision with the pedestrian, which potentially serious because combined mass. However, it is the users with significant momentum when traveling the speed. Hoverboards are generally designed to operate on smooth surface such as pavements, tiled floor. They can be ridden safely on because they would the wheel could catch the potholes and drains. That's what I was telling. They would also be vulnerable to motor vehicles and would force the passing cyclist away from the curb into the path of larger and faster vehicles. And then hoverboard have also raised safety risks associated with their batteries overheating and bursting into flame. So students, there can be case studies where media publicity can come, where how you are going to handle the media and the government in case if your company has the same issue. Hoverboard requires both high voltages, high currents in order to ensure that the platform remains stable and acceptable speed. A loose connection can result in short circuit and cause battery overheat and possibly catch fire. So students, this can damage the ankle of the person who is using. So be very much careful. In extreme cases, rough handling or battery can crack the battery's case, creating the risk of explosion, electrolyte and comes out to the air. Batteries are vulnerable to damage. Hoverboards are ridden carelessly and mistreated and stored. So students, there is high operational risk involved that you need to keep in mind. Now students, I think we are going to come to the main area, that is our company. So our company is Runabout. So just keep in mind students, we have done all the industry research previously. And students, you can take around 10 seconds just to write down whatever the things that you have. And if you have any questions, you can comment in the comment box also. I will be explaining what to do next. So students, just go through this, whatever you have gone through. So when coming now, Runabout was established in 2005. So I think they exploited the trend in the market because this industry emerged in the early 2000s. So they initially started in 2005. The company was created to rent bicycles. So this was their starting point. In response to the successful launch of the city center bicycle sharing scheme that has been launched in several other countries. So they have done a good benchmarking. They have done a good benchmarking and learned the market very well, how it is operating in other countries. The company started with 3 docks in the center of Gilan capital city. It rapidly expanded until it had total of 32 docks. So from 3 docks to 32 docks, the expansion is very high, but the question mark is, are they controlling? Do they have proper internal control system? Because 3 docks internal control system is controllable, but when it is 32 docks, do they have good policies internally? Did they systemize their process? That is a question mark, students. Systemizing across capital city and significant presence in 14 other cities across the countries. So students, it's a good expansion and there can be chances they can expand internationally also. Runabout was quoted in the Gilan Stock Exchange in 2010. Rightly after 5 years of operations, they have quoted. So students, we need to identify whether the current team, the founders are still managing the organization, because there can be a situation of corporate governance issue that you need to keep in mind. In 2012, Runabout's board commissioned a strategic review. They commissioned a strategic review, the market for micromobility in Gilan. The directors were concerned the demand for sharing scheme based on conventional bicycles was tailing off because commuters becoming unwillingly rely on pedal power. Because I told you, pedal power is less effort needed, that told you. And Zealand relatively is a flat country, so cyclists do not have content with mini hills, but weather can be rather windy, which can make the cycle very hard. Okay, okay. So students, just keep in mind. Okay, they do not have content with many hill, but still high chances of the weather. So just keep in mind, students, their pedal power is very high needed here. Okay, on experimental basis, Runabout modified some of the docks in the capital city to operate both electric and conventional bicycles. They enable to choose between pedal driven and electric bicycle with slightly higher rental fee for electric bicycle to cover the cost of recharging batteries. The docks was located enable the user to use electric bicycles on frequent used routes. Runabout also replaced all the docks of bicycle in the western city, so their users could use electric bicycle across the whole city network. Runabout found that introduction of electric bicycles did not stimulate any demand. Did a little stimulate demands. A small demand was there, so just keep in mind. Did stimulate some demand. In 2014, the government of Geelan introduced legislation to make mandatory to wear helmets. So students, now it comes to the government of Geelan. This reduced the demand for the pedal driven and electric bicycle, because I think the users may find it very inconvenient to carry helmets when they are commuting. So that is the reason. The company experiment various schemes such as offering to sell scheme members helmet at a discounted price. The only problem with these type of vehicles is you need to carry the helmet wherever you are traveling. So the people may find it little inconvenient to carry the helmet where they're going. So the new helmet legislation coincided with the launch of two competing bicycle sharing scheme in Geelan. Both Runabout's new competitors focused on their attention on capital city, but soon started to expand in their own towns and cities. These competitors grew steadily. In 2016, Runabout replaced its bicycles with hoverboards in western city. So it's 2016 where it became hoverboard. So just keep in mind. The docks had previously been used to secure bicycle and replaced with hoverboard compatible docks. An immediate success with hoverboard quickly becoming popular in many commuters, and they became even less effort to ride than electric bicycle. They also opened new market with hoverboard proving popular with tourists who found them an ideal way to explore the city, either individually or as a part of guided tour. They are also particularly suitable for tour and seafront of the coastal resort because they are generally flat and offer paved areas and free of traffic. Hoverboard also proved popular with shoppers who could park in the edge of the city center and use hoverboard to get to the shops. Runabout encouraged these results, so replaced bicycles with hoverboard in the Zealand. So this is how the business transformation took place. From bicycle, they moved into hoverboard. The Runabout moved quickly to establish hoverboard sharing scheme in capital city and each of the 14 cities in which it previously operated as bicycle sharing operator. The other bicycle sharing companies continue to rent out both pedal and electric bicycle, but none of them express interest in converting into hoverboard or other forms of mobilities like skateboard, everything. The city authorities have made it clear to wish observe effect of hoverboard and the flow of pedestrian and traffic city and also safety of this. So students, just keep in mind, students, you need to understand that there is a government intervention that is taking place. So students, I can generally say government can become a major influential factor. They can introduce new laws there, you need to be able to understand. Each of 15 cities in which Runabout operates has announced that it will not permit any other hoverboard sharing scheme on its street, leaving Runabout as the sole provider. So at the moment, Runabout is like a monopoly at the moment. But one question I can say, you can revise in F3 something called hostile takeover. So there is high chances that the government can take over this company, hostile takeover, for foreseeable future. All these cities will, however, continue to encourage development of bicycle sharing. In Geelan, the responsibility for management of road pedestrian safety is a matter for individual town and city council, the elected local government authorities for responsible servicing including transport. Companies that wish to offer any form of public transport including micro must be licensed by appropriate town or the city. So students, I am generally saying this intangible assets of license may be an issue. Example, license can be expired, or sometimes they may ask you a new regulation that you need to follow, safety checks, everything. So Runabout employs around 15,000 people. So I'll just mention 15,000. It's a big amount, including 2,000 planning and analysis staff in the head office. The company experience of providing micro-mobility services has given its deep understanding of the flow of pedestrian through the city centers. The understanding extends to interaction between micro-mobility and different forms of public transport. To extend that, town and city council that sought advice about transportation service and Runabout on consultancy basis. So Runabout has totally of 30,270,000 users, 30 million students. Now one issue is cyber risk. Please be careful of cyber risk. There can be fake accounts also. There can be idling accounts also. We don't know anything here. So you need to be very much careful whether there is no malware attack in this. And you have enough storage capacity also. Registration requires user to create an account of Runabout, secure website, download mobile phone app. Registration is free, but all Hoverboard's rides are charged users' credit card. So there is high chances of hacking the information, students' credit card. When creating the account, users must provide 16-digit card accompanied by their 3-digit credit card validation, that is the CVV, the credit card valuation number. The users can use the app to locate the nearest Runabout dock available in the Hoverboard. Alternatively, user can walk convenient to the dock in the hope there will be sufficient Hoverboard available. Each dock has 4-digit location number. Each user logs into that app using the individual PIN number and then inputs the location number of the dock from which they wish to hire the Hoverboard. Runabout Central Service verifies the user's account and send a 5-digit on-time code that to the user's phone. The user's key on the on-time code on the dock is to release the Hoverboard. So students, just keep in mind there is a on-time key to which the Hoverboard can be returned. The app can locate nearby to which Hoverboard can be returned. The users can simply write to knock down the user activities in the dock using phone app directed to the place where Hoverboard and the bay at street level. That brings the hire period to the end of the cost charged on the credit card. So students, this is the process, and I generally feel there can be internal control issues in this process, because according to internal control there should be annual review, because new ideas may come every time, and there can be situation one customer can be using the same password. Sharing can take place, students. One user can share the password to another user. So that is one risk that can happen. The mechanism inside the dock interrogates the electronic self-diagnosis software on the Hoverboard computer. The Hoverboard is taken out of service and set aside for collection by mechanic if it reports any mechanical or electrical failure. Only it reports, okay. Suppose there can be situation no reporting taking place, negligence can take place, health and safety can be a issue. Otherwise, it is docked and charged ready for hire by the next user. Runabout mechanics must collect and relocate hoverboards throughout the day in response to the capacity in the docks and the availability of hoverboards. On typical weekday, 43% of hoverboards are hire occurs during rush hour periods, 7 a.m. to 9 and 4 to 6 p.m. During the morning, the rush hours, many hoverboards are undocked, and also the stations are redocked in the city location close to the places of employment. The opposite is true for the event of rushing hour. Runabout uses van to relocate hoverboard from docks that are close, being fill up to the docks in the danger running of hoverboard. That ensures that the user can find available hoverboard which can be redocked and close to their final destination. Runabout's van also uplifts faulty hoverboards repair. So that is the process. Average hire time for one hoverboard is 22 minutes. The revenue associated is typically as follows. Now students, here they have given a small charge on how the average revenue has taken place. So students, I can really see there is a more contribution. You generally get a good contribution here. So after you deduct the fixed cost and other administration expense, you can get the profit. and I still feel that this is a good type of profit here. And students, the average revenue per journey is $5.8 and the average running cost is 2.9. The software of Runabout's Hoverboard restricts maximum speed to 6 miles, and that's a good thing. But we don't know whether there may be situation where the customer can break this restriction. That is faster of a typical brisk walking to 3 to 4 miles per hour. The hoverboard could travel as much greater speed, but Runabout is concerned about higher speed would lead to more accidents. So they have had a good thing here on controlling the speed. And Runabout requires users to be at least 18 years old, so there is a risk. How are they actually monitoring this? If it is done by a personal filling, there can be high chances that someone who would have adult would have just created an account for their child, which can use, have a valid driving license, although there is no legal requirement for the user of minimum age or hold official driving license. So they are following their own compliance at the moment, and we need to check whether this compliance is really followed by the organization. A runabout insurance would charge more in absence of those requirements. Runabout is insured both against claims arising from injury to users and damage their property, public liability insurance that cover injury, property damages to the third party. The insurance cost stated above refers to the insurance cover provided to users with respect to any injury caused by the user of the third party or damage of the third party. This covers applies automatically duration and valid by the user. Runabout also incurs significant cost of insurance against claim made by the company, by users or the third party for the injury of the property damage. So students, there is a risk also here, but insurance is there. But there can be some unknown type of damages that can happen in your unseen. So please be careful. To date, all Runabouts Hoverboard had been purchased by Mineering Robotic. So students, this is your supplier, Mineering Robotics, a major manufacturer of the industrial equipment based in Zealand. So students, you are in Zealand, so the foreign currency risk comes here. So I'll mention here forex risk is very high because you are buying items from your supplier. A country that is strongly associated with excellence engineering. Mineering has no connection with Runabout other than as a supplier. So students, the question is after sales service, because it's very important, after sales service. Sometimes Mineering can give a defective supply and our consumers may get affected. So whether do we have an after sales service? Runabout selected Mineering Hoverboard because of its robust design and designed for the use in factories as personal transportation for security staffs and supervisors. When ridden carefully on the flat surface such as tile, concrete floors, Mineering Hoverboard could be used for 40 hours a week for 6 months before they had to be replaced. Okay. The average depreciation charge is 0.74 based on the estimate of life expectancy provided by Mineering, and we need to find whether do they have any warranty scheme, whether if there is any damages we can return it back to them. Mineering sells Hoverboard to a wide range of customers around the world, although Runabout is only customer who uses the shared Hoverboard service. So they are the only customer here, but I still feel Mineering has the bargaining power because they are a big company at the moment. Mineering hoverboards are used extensively in the industrial and retail setting. For example, many security departments equip their officers with Mineering hoverboard, petrol and fast response duty. So students, just keep in mind we are over dependent on one supplier, and there can be chances we can start our manufacturing plant. There can be chances we can start our own manufacturing plant where we can produce these type of thing, or we can go for a local manufacturer in Zealand. Here we can buy it at a cheaper price with best quality also. High chances are there, which you can keep in mind. So students, when coming here, this is a very important thing, students, because whenever you are writing the unseen answer, always check whether the proposal is matching our mission statement. If it is matching our mission statement, you can just refer this in your answer and start writing your justification. Refer this, don't memorize this. So the vision to keep Zealand moving, that should be actually the mission, students. Mission is what business you are in, but the vision, Runabout's mission is to offer economically efficient approach on micro-mobility. We wish the harness of both new and existing technology to enrich our users' lives while creating wealth for our shareholders. Just keep in mind. Shareholders' wealth also. So Runabout's value, provide users with safe and convenient transportation. So when there is a proposal to buy a cheaper hoverboard, you need to check whether it is matching our values to minimize the environmental footprint of micromobility solution. So we need to be very careful, students. I was clearly mentioning about the carbon emission that has been taking place. Protect safety and dignity of our employees, very much crucial here. Engage stakeholders with mutual benefits to all. And students, safe, it is the very important thing, students, because there can be a sure chances a safety issues can come. So students, here the board of directors they are mentioning, and one good thing is they have given a lot of board of directors who are non-executive and executive. So you can go through these students, and I am clearly stating never forget the name of these people. I generally feel students ignore the name of the people mentioned in the case study. That is the main reason students generally don't score the marks here. And I generally see this is a very good management board, very good management board here we have. But students, when we are going into the organizational chart, we have operational director, human resource director, chief financial officer, IT director. So students, it looks little fine here, and the chief executive director. So if you go through Alan Peter, collaborating city, management of docks and overfit, and legal issue he takes place, and human resource, staff, health and safety, because currently we have a good number of employees. We have around 13,000 employees. Financial management, accounting, financial reporting, and treasury function. Please be careful. And IT maintenance and IT secretary. It looks fine. It looks fine, students. It looks fine here. So only one question we have. We do not have a marketing director. We do not have a marketing director. Students, marketing is also one of the crucial element here, especially the digital marketing. So students, you can just mention marketing director is not there. It is one of their key weaknesses, students, because marketing is essential for an organization. And students, if you see the non-executive board, you have the risk committee, you have the audit committee, you have the remuneration committee, but one committee that is missing according to corporate governance is nomination committee. So students, we need to nominate the right people to the board. So nomination committee is an issue. So there can be an HR issue also on how they are recruiting the people also. There can be some personal issues, everything. So students, I am generally telling you this is the risk what is mentioned. So again, I will put a triple star for this risk analysis, students. And here they have given the key risk what they are there, and this has been repeated many times also. But specifically, students, I am telling you the IT risk is very crucial. I am telling you cyber risk is the most important risk. And I want you to go through this. This is clearly explained here. I was telling about the hacking, everything very much clearly mentioned, students. So please keep that in mind. These are the risks. And students, I wanted to say one thing. You should be able to think of other risk also. You need to think about other risk also. Example of other risk is supplier risk. Because students, currently we have only one supplier. So suppose if he gets bankrupt, if he is closing down the business, from where are we going to buy this? And if there is a change in the operations or the technology, how can we do this? So you need to keep in mind. So the next area, students, that you need to keep is Runabout internal audit charter. So students, they have given about the internal audit functions here. So I need you to go through this. It's very clear, students. They have given specifically explanation of the independence of the audit firm. Independence of the audit firm. So just keep in mind that is very crucial here. One audit issues also can raise. Now students, here they have given the financial statements, and one special thing I have noted here is the dividend. They have paid a dividend in the current year, students. So we need to identify what are the future dividends that can affect. So EPS, PE ratios, please be very much careful with that. And students, one thing I wanted to tell you, in this comment section, in this section below, you will be finding a link where I have already done the calculation for the ratio analysis. So the ratio calculations are already there, which you can use it, students, and you can create your own explanation thinking what are the factors that would have affected. And students, here we have the financial statements. It is clearly mentioned, and we can go through that also. And our major competitor also, DocBike, they have given once again. So just keep in mind, but the dividend information is not given. And I have done the ratio analysis for both of these company as well. And the share price is also given, students. It generally shows a share price, it's going up at the moment. But one thing is the gear is more than 1. It is the beta is more than 1. If the beta is more than 1, students, please be careful. The systematic risk is also very high. The systematic risk is very high because I generally say this is a tech sector. So tech sector means the risk is very high. Disruptions can take place. New things can come here. Injuries can cause something. Okay, so just keep in mind, students, very much important. And students, these are the basic articles what is there. And I am clearly stating, students, you should go through this. So here one doctor has clearly told the negative consequences of using hoverboard, like you will be getting ankle pains. You will be getting ankle pains while you are going through that. Ankle pain will be there. Just keep in mind, students. And IT Monthly, here they are criticizing that the quality of the graduates are poor. That's what I told you. The nomination committee may play an important role here. And students, here they have connected with the university. DocBike has connected with the university. So there can be high chances even Runabout can tie up with some university and guide the university graduates on how these technologies works out. So just keep in mind, students, there can be diversity, because in the past examination this type of questions have been coming. So just keep in mind, students. And the business criticizes on the credit card risk. I told you cyber risk is one of the major element that will be tested in the examination. Cyber risk is one of the major element that can be tested in the examination. So please be careful, students. Cyber risk is very much crucial. Cyber risk is very much crucial. And when coming here, they are telling bicycles are safer and hoverboards are not safer. And frankly speaking, that may be little true, students, because balancing is very crucial here. Balancing is very crucial, because sometimes you may fall and injure your back. So high chances are there. So just keep in mind. And also, students, there is a conflict between the city council and the transfer. I mean, this is a compliance risk, I can generally say, because they are planning to minimize the number of docks in a city just to avoid the congestion. So students, it can be also a situation in the examination that you need to keep in mind, the docks. And then students, extracts from Winnie Turner blog. So personal best, what they are saying here is one of the customer is clearly stating of the heating issue that is taking place. The heating issues that is taking place, students. So this can be causing some problem also in a negative publicity also. And the other one is also they are telling the short it is there in the bicycle. You need to be very much careful. And the other one they are telling is putting on weight, because students, here the policies are not much clear, because people are assuming their weight means generally their weight, but actually the hoverboard also calculates their surrounding weight. Example, if they are having a backpack with them, the backpack also is calculated in that weight. So ultimately, if the backpack is also heavy, the equipment will find it very hard. So students, this is a very good case study that you can keep in mind, and practically I'm telling you, be focused in the case study. And again, students, if you have any questions, any reviews, please feel free to contact me on WhatsApp, or you can just communicate in the comment box what is mentioned there. So thank you very much, students, for the time you have. Be safe, everyone. God bless you all.